The budget will be voted on at the annual town meeting on May 20th at 7:30 at the Amity High School cafeteria. Thank you. Do this one second. There, okay. So the budget process begins in September, where the capital budget is prepared, the department started to prepare the capital budgets, and in October, operating budget. The budgets are submitted in early January, and the Board of Selectmen and Finance receive budget presentation from each of these departments. In February and in March, the Board of Selectmen in February makes a recommendation to the Board of Finance on a budget, and in March, the Board of Finance makes a recommendation to this public hearing. As I indicated earlier, the budget will be voted on May 20th at the end of the international meeting. When the budget is created, there are basically four budget priorities that are used to guide the process. One is to control tax, which is carefully balancing wants versus needs. A second is continuing fiscal stewardship. A third is to maximize efficiency and effectiveness. And finally, the last is to manage and provide services that, for the citizens of the town. Just a little history here for you. Since 2016 to 2024, the budget as a whole has risen 21.95%. That's the expenditure portion of the budget. To break down that into three main categories in our budget, the town government over that 8-year period has gone up 11%, a little over 11%. The Woodbridge Board of Education percentage has gone up, the budget has gone up 26%. And the Amity School District portion of our budget is going up 33%. So you can see the impact of the three categories on our budget. The budget is $58,302,095. And there are 7 main categories of revenues in our budget. The biggest, of course, is property taxes, which is a little under 90%. That's actually low compared to previous years in 2015 and 2017 to 2020. We're about 93% of our budget was operated for property taxes. So it's down a little from its historic average. We also have our other major categories in intergovernmental revenue, which is up at 4.47%. Department charges, which are all the charges for various departments, from recreation fees to building permit fees to transfer station fees and other fees and revenues that you pay to access services. And then finally, some of the other categories are just about 1%. Our other revenues category does contain $800,000 for allocation from fund balance. You can see those revenue changes over the past year. The biggest increase in revenues is our interest income here, which has increased 141%, or $190,000 over the previous year. We also had a state grant revenue increase 9.75% from the previous year, largely due to the municipal revenue sharing account grant that we get for our motor vehicles. That's our major increase in that category. Our building permit revenue is driving our increase increase in our department charges, which is about 12% increase, due to increased activity in building office. So these are the three main categories of our budget. Education is 62% of our budget. Broken down into deliveries and revenues, you can see here. And town government services are 37%.
Is that too dark, everybody? Too dark for the camera?
It's fine.
Can't do that. These are the major expenditure changes in our budget from 24 to 25. Just a few highlights for you. The work and board education budget increases 3.51%, and our portion of contribution to the AMD budget is 4.53%. A few other highlights for you. General government increases 3.83%. That includes some planning dollars to complete the POCD and the planning and the selectmen's office. The public works increases 6.87%. A lot of that is due to increased rate fees to dispose of garbage and municipal solid waste from our transfer station as a driver in that category. Recreation is down 25%. That's largely due to the removal of the Beecher pool from the expenditure budget, which includes the pool and gym and recreation. Capital expenditures are up 43%, and that is for capital expenses related to vehicle purchases and building maintenance and other one-time pay-as-you-go capital expenditures. And finally, our debt service is down 22%. We paid off in 2024 some open space bonds, the Beecher South roof, the firehouse, and those are the three major items that were paid off in 2024. So as a result, you can see that the debt service was down 22%. So the mill rate for the upcoming year is 46.43, which is an increase of 2.99% over the current mill rate of 45.08. The state of Connecticut still has a cap on motor vehicles, which remains at 32.46. This is just a snapshot of our long-term debt. The yellow represents our existing debt. And so that's here. You can see there's a drop here. That is the payment of the simulcast radio system that was installed a few years ago. And then there's a drop here in 22, 32, 33. That's the when the Woodbridge Country Club purchase is paid off. That's paid off in 33, 2032. So the following year there's a drop. The green represents Andy. You can see that after the current year, paper down significantly, and there's very little debt remaining for Amity. And then finally, the orange just represents some debt under consideration, which is an estimate of some long, some future debt that we may occur. Finally, the American Rescue Plan Act, the town received a little over $2.6 million in funds. These are some of the projects that we're using the funding for, all the projects that we're using the funding for. Includes the senior center renovations, actually the renovation of this gym, which will begin in a few weeks. The Fort Firehouse, road reconstruction, and a training and storage facility at the firehouse. And lastly, there's some dates, which we'll leave up on the screen for you. Our Earth Day is this Saturday. It's a town-wide event. We have the Amity referendum on May 7th. And that's here in the gym. The renovation for the gym starts on May 8th. The annual town meeting is on the 20th, and the Memorial Day celebration is the 27th.
Can you just remind me of the annual town meeting?
Yes, thank you. The annual town meeting will be at the high school cafeteria. So don't come here, it will be under construction.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Tony. Okay, before we begin the line-by-line conversation, if you will, first of all, I want to thank all the department heads who are here tonight. We really appreciate that. Their input has been incredibly helpful during this process. We're going to go through the line-by-line budget. This is your opportunity to ask questions. I will state the department, the dollar expenditure for the proposed budget. We would ask you to come to the microphone. Please state your name and the road you live on. And remember that everyone in the room is everyone else's neighbor. So we're going to begin. Board of Selectmen, $716,528. Any comment? Seeing none. Probate Court, $9,500. Any comment? Seeing none. Town Clerk's Office, $256,940. Any comment? Seeing none. Registrar of Voters, $92,549. Any comment? Seeing none. Government Access Television, $33,210. Any comment? Seeing none. General Administration, $351,990. Any comment? Seeing none. Information Systems, $243,172. Not 173, 172. Any comments? Finance Department, $264,423. Any comment? Tax Collector, $165,911. Any comment? Seeing none. Tax Assessor, $193,365. Any comment? Seeing none. Board of Assessment Appeals, $2,000. Any comment? Seeing none. Board of Finance, $360,666. Any comment? How about?
Bob Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road, near Woodbridge. First of all, thank you all of you for the work that you do, and thank you, Susan, for your leadership now as the chairman of the Board of Finance. I'm sure you'll do a great job there. Also welcome anyone else who's also new on the Board of Finance. I think Abby, you're new, and you'll also new people on the Board of Selectmen. Anyway, before I make this comment here, I didn't know that I probably would have made before we kind of get started. I'll just make a suggestion or request. I know tonight as we go through the line items, some questions may be able to be answered tonight, but in other cases, you may not be able to get the information until the town meeting. So it's okay if you don't have the answer tonight, but let's, if we can, try to have it by the town meeting. I know last year I asked a myriad of questions, and I wasn't picking on the library. It was really just an example of us dissecting a particular thing on the budget, just to look at things very closely. And so if the group can actually come back and answer, you may not have the answer tonight, but next time. And I know last year what happened was there was a preliminary budget, then there was a town meeting. I went to a Board of Selectmen meeting, I still made the same request. And unfortunately, by July, Eric did come to the meeting, gave a very detailed and excellent report that provided a lot of the information that I had been looking for, so I thank you for that. I did notice in looking at the overall budget, it looks like almost kind of across the board, most full-time people and a lot of the employees got a 5% increase, and maybe somewhere along the line that question can be answered along the way. I also want to congratulate you all on the EV charger charging, okay? I know it's kind of a thorn in my side, and I've been asking about it for quite a period of time. I do have a question about the EV charger. Is the charging that someone that uses it, and I drive a hybrid, I'm not quite electric, but I am on a couple hybrids. What we charge, is it a little bit above what we pay for the electric to account for the fact that there's some maintenance and the use of the parking spaces and everything else that goes along with it? Do we upcharge that a little bit, or how does that work?
So the answer to your first question about 5%, that's, at the time we did the 24 budget, we were in negotiations with both of our unions. So there were no salary adjustments in any of the departments for 24. So as a result, we have settled with one of our unions at 2.5%. So that actually has 2 years in it.
Okay.
So it's like 2.5% for 1 year and 2.5% for another.
Thank
It
you.
looks like 5, right? That's a good question. Secondly, on the EV charger, so there's definitely a factor built in for how much we pay, and then it's additional for maintenance of the new net, and all the things you indicated.
Okay.
And also, we did survey what other entities are charging, what the state of Connecticut charges, sort of did a lot of research on how much other groups are charging. So sort of a combination of those two things.
Thank you for that.
And as a public service, I'm going to announce that I believe if you leave your car there too long and abandon it at the charging station, you will be charged for that.
That's a great policy.
Okay?
Yeah,
It's not a parking spot.
exactly.
When we did our research, we discovered that a lot of units actually do that.
Great. I do have one other question for you, Tony. On the general professional services, we're going from $20,000 up to $41,500. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry, wrong page. Sorry about that. It's a 55% increase on professional audit services.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, we're in the last year of our audit, financial audit, and next year we'll have to go out and bid. It's an extremely competitive marketplace, and there's very few audit firms that are actually auditing municipalities anymore. And I know Donna can speak to the difficulty we've had trying to get auditors. Matter of fact, there's probably, I don't know the exact number, about 60 or 70 municipalities that are this year with their audits, just because they can't find municipal audits. So as a result, price comes up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Going forward, town plan and zoning, $85,756. Any comment? Seeing none. Zoning Board of Appeals, $2,650. Any comment? Seeing none. The Center, $104,950. Any comment? Seeing none. Former Fire Station, $16,292. Any comment? Seeing none. Police Department, $3,559,938. Any comment? Seeing none. Fire Commission, $1,181,292. Bob is back.
Someone had to take Mike Luther's place, right? God bless him.
No, not at all. So don't feel obligated.
Sorry, I fell behind. So last year, when I was asking about the tires, and the answer was about there was a percentage increase on the cost of the tires. And so my follow-up question now, and I know this is going to be one of those, we don't have the answer tonight, and that's fine. We can come back next month. I'm actually curious how many tires were changed last year versus how many tires were changed this year. Because if it was 20 tires, and then this year it's 16 tires. The percentage wouldn't apply, it would just be a calculation of the difference in the tires. So we have the answer, great. If not, that's fine too.
Don't worry about that answer.
Sean, you want to take a stab at that?
Sure.
Why don't you come forward? Fire Chief Sean Rowland.
Fire Chief Sean Rowland. In regards to tires, you can't base it on per tire. You have to base it on what truck tires are getting replaced. So each truck is different, different size tires. So you have steer tires, you have regular tires, and then you have the small vehicle tires. So they're all vary. So they range from anywhere between $350 a tire all the way up to almost $700
So
a
you're
tire.
doing the calculation the way you're actually figuring which tires have to be replaced based on the cost, and that's how you're doing it. Not-
So how we do it is, in the fire service, we have to replace the tires regardless of condition every 7 years. So we have a program set up, so when the tire is replaced, it's on a 7-year change. But there are tires that when we get them, it goes by not the date of when the tire goes on, it goes by the date that's stamped on the tire. So when we go out to look for tires, it's fairly important that we know the date code, because we need to get the date code on the tire as close to the purchase as we can, because it doesn't matter when the tire is purchased, it depends on when the tire is stamped and manufactured.
So you answered. I mean, it's basically, you're determining which tires have to be replaced next year, times the cost, and that's what's in the budget, not a
Absolutely.
previous year kind of.
Per DOT.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Moving forward, medical services, $324,075. Any comment? Seeing none. Animal control, $117,955. Any comment? Seeing none. Building department, $134,518. Any comment? Seeing none. Public Works, $1,482,189. Any comment? Seeing none. Waste management, $702,104. Any comment? Seeing none. Building maintenance, $512,094. Any comment? Seeing none. Human Services, $537,046. Any comment? Seeing none. Recreation Department, $481,722. Any comment? Seeing none. Pool and expense, $0. Any comment? Hello.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Daniel Delphi, 11 Maple Valley Drive, here in Newbury. The pool being closed hurts. I don't like it. I understand that from a fiscal point, and I've spoken to Mika about it and others. We don't have 7 kids. So I love the pool. I love the school. We came here for the school system that separated us. And to not have that, it hurts. So, and I know it's more of a global issue, and it's been a drain, pun intended. But the town needs more, and we need better, because that's not something we should sacrifice. This is our biggest driver by why I left New Haven and came here was the schools. And to hurt the school in one of the biggest budget items and everything else. So I thank everybody. You're doing a lot of good work. I appreciate it. I'm critical of myself too, and just a little bit critical of others. But I like the direction we're going. I appreciate it, and I just that really hurts in the moment. A $0 on the budget for that hurts. So I'd like to see that back, and I think we can get it back by growing in the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
More of a safety.
Mika, did you want to comment?
Sure, thank you, Dan. What I want to say, and I hope folks understand that, the decision was made very specifically because of the condition of the pool this year, the way things are happening and what the circumstances are with the pool this year. To Dan's point, it is one of the better used facilities we have from a recreation standpoint here in town. So there's value there. We recognize that there's value. The intent is not to close the pool and keep it closed. The intent is to close the pool, to assess exactly what needs to be done in order for that pool to be truly what it should be, and or not. And there's also space requirements that need to be addressed at Beecher, and that needs to be assessed as well. So what we're doing is we're taking the time to take a look at this. With the repairs that needed to be made, it was not likely that the pool would be open as fully as it had been in the past, so there wouldn't be as much use. But the decision is not final in terms of what's going on with the pool. We recognize, and I can tell you, I've heard from a lot of people making sure they let me know that they value the pool. The usage, we don't use it during the day because of the security at the school, and we have to figure out exactly how we can mitigate that particular challenge. And that's what we're going to look to do, and by the next budget we'll know. We'll have the information, we'll have the data, so that we can make a very clear and concise decision as to how we move forward and what it's going to cost us. But the one thing I'll say from my perspective, if we're going to open the pool, we're going to open it, we're going to commit to it and do what's necessary to make it be the asset that it was when it was put into the school.
Thank you, Mika. Anything else on pool and gym expense?
Can I make just a follow-up comment? Thank you, Mika, for that comment. I think you might have been served as liaison to recreation when I served on recreation. And just to clarify something in terms of, I guess maybe something changed. When there was a point in time, obviously after Sandy Hook, unfortunately, where we did an evaluation of the way people come into the school to keep children safe, and there were some additional doors that we put in. We traversed the whole building. I think at the time we worked with the superintendent, Andy Esposito, the police chief, in making sure that there was a way that the adult swimmers didn't have to come in at 6 in the morning, or whatever, some of the seniors, that they could come in during the middle of the day, whatever it is. But there was a period where there would be a sweep of the locker room before kids would go in there. So I just wanted to mention, I don't know if that's still the policy, but that was something that was there. So I hope you're able to figure out how to, and I know, Mika, with everything that you've been doing, you've been very strategic about the way you're looking at things and considering things. So hopefully that can be resolved. So thank you for that.
Just to clarify, it is not the process right now. There is no morning swim, there is no afternoon swim at all. The other thing to consider, and this is just obviously to make sure we're all on the same page, full disclosure, we took it out of the budget this year. If we put it back in the budget next year, obviously that means our community says it's worth it and they want it, and we pay for it. So it's something that, if it's reflected in the next year budget, it's been taken out this year, so that's a little bit of a hit we take if and when we do put it back. But again, if it's worth it and we're going to do it, it will be something that will be taken care of. And the costs right now are ranging anywhere from $1 to $2 million to upgrade that pool to a point where it would be the asset that we want it to be. So,
Thank you, Mika.
I'm also a swimmer in the
Name
pool.
and road to.
Paula Swanson, 6 Clark Road.
Thank you.
So, relative to the pool, right, it's now working, but we're still paying the pool membership. And when I signed up for the pool membership on the beginning of the year, there were 2 options. The option to have, I think, a membership that would allow you to use several pools, and the membership that would allow for the Beecher Road. They had different prices. So my questions are, where is this money going? And since I pay the membership to have access to other pools, that would be like the Town Orange, the Jewish Community Center, why there was a difference? And is there a refund? And if there's nothing allowed for the budget, where is this money going?
what I will say is, we'll review that. I have to be honest, I don't know as it relates to folks who have memberships and what has been done in terms of compensating for not being able to use it or anything along those lines. I do know that the JCC and Camp Orange both are welcoming Woodbridge residents should they want to go there for a fee. We are planning to have conversations with both to see if there's anything we can do about that, to see if we can make it more attractive, more economical. But in terms of what you've already paid, I'll take it up with our recreation director and see exactly what happened with that and what will happen with that.
Mika, thank you. I was just going to say, is John here, John Adamovich, to answer
I
that
didn't see
question?
it, John.
No, he's not
He's
here.
not here, okay, all
I
right.
did see John, but I don't know who knows.
Yeah, we could definitely give refunds for that.
Okay,
That's what I was hoping for. Thank you.
thank you.
And you mentioned something about making more attractive. Can you be more specific? I just didn't understand, I didn't follow what you were saying.
Part of what we needed to do is, there's maintenance required on the pool, generally speaking, and the pool was leaking, and it's going to be very expensive to obviously mitigate what we needed to do for the pool. We found a solution that was relatively inexpensive or reasonable and affordable from our perspective. We tried that and it helped significantly. We were able to fill the pool up. However, it still required maintenance on a regular basis in the way of our resources, our men going out there and actually wet vacuum because there was still an issue with that. There's also a window that was used underneath the pool window that was used for coaching at a particular time. Very useful, it's very forward thinking. But it's deteriorated to the point where it's also a problem. It's a problem. So there's a lot of work that would have to be done both from a mechanical standpoint as well as an environmental standpoint. And when I say that, I mean tiles, walls, things of that nature. Locker rooms have to be looked at. So it's all of that needs to be looked at and funded for if indeed we're going to do the pool. From my perspective, if we're going to fix it rather than limping along and band-aiding it, I'd like to fix it, is what we would do, and that's what we want to be able to assure we have the community desire to do so, and we have the funding to support it. So,
Thank you. Parks Department, $294,693. Any comment? Seeing none. Thomas Darling House, $8,350. Any comment? Seeing none. Library, $888,479. Any comment?
Eric, are you here? Yeah, he's here. Great.
Do
Terrific.
you have a question?
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Okay. So first of all, I want to commend Eric on, that's why I love to see he was here, on the report that he gave last July and all the information that he provided, which really answered a lot of my questions. I have a question in relation to, in that report, you talked about we have 60,000 people that visit the library on a yearly basis. And I'm a little curious how that calculation is that each person that comes in and takes a book, or if there's a class of 20 people, that counts as 20 people. Just curious how that occurs. I did, and I was really glad to get those numbers. It looks like based on per man hour or per person hour, it looks like we service about 2.43 people per hour that the library is open. That looks like the efficiency factor
Why
there.
don't we let Eric address your question? If you don't mind, Eric? Thank you.
Sure. I'm not sure what the man hours, but I assume your math is correct. But I will say, we do have a people counter. Actually, we bought a people counter with ARPA money that was actually a very advanced, good people counter, so it actually counts everyone going in. And it's fairly sophisticated, so I think it is generally speaking accurate. So it is actually a very accurate count of everybody who goes into the library. So it's not just a sample.
Thank you. Conservation Commission, $3,300. Any comment? Seeing none. Economic Development Commission, $3,450. Any comment? Seeing none. Inland Wetlands Commission, $56,905. Any comment? Seeing none. Employee fringe benefits, $5,130,000. Any comment? Seeing none. Debt service, $1,619,957. Any comment? Seeing none. Woodbridge Board of Education, $17,614,200. Any comment? Seeing none. Amity Board of Education, $18,780,884. Any comment? Seeing none? Capital budget, $1,969,042. Any comment? Seeing none? Any other comments? Okay, we have a comment.
Justin Parker, 1050 Graceford Road. I just have, I've been in town 12 years, and the overarching theme that I've always seen is that we need to grow the grand list. That's our end-all, be-all answer to why the taxes perpetually go up and up and up. And yeah, we do management every town, but it's always, we need to grow the grand list, we need to grow the grand list. Every year, it's like we never grow the grand list, we want to keep increasing it. When is it going to stabilize, meaning no increase, or perhaps even go down? Like, and what happens when the state of Connecticut eliminates the vehicle tax altogether? Because they haven't talked about it. They haven't voted on it, but like the pool. What is the impact on that pool? What is the cost? I assume we already know that. And what will that impact be if we do it? Because quite frankly, the private services, you know what, the Jewish Community Center is perfectly okay. If it is going to result in a multi-percentage point increase to my taxes, again, I would just as soon pay for the JCC of Town of Orange than raise the cost. I mean, I'm perfectly all right with getting my kids trained on how to swim. I need the school to do it for me, right? So what are we doing to mitigate this ever-increasing cost in the town? And when are we going to actually do something other than grow the grand list, since it seems we never do that?
Thank you. I think Tony may have a comment about that.
Yeah, I could just comment on the pool. So the pool, the net cost of the pool budget was about $430,000.
That's for repairs.
So part of it's repairs, part of it's operating. I'd say 130 is repairs, the rest is operating. Operating would be maintenance of the pool, custodial charges, lifeguards, pool director. So there's not only operating costs, electricity, chemicals. So it's not only the operating in terms of the maintenance, but also the programming that's done in recreation.
I presume that the elimination of the pool will also serve the additional benefit of freeing up square footage that you guys are saying we need, right? So, I mean, has an analysis done between, you know, if we get rid of the pool and then we can, I know that space is functionally different, but if it was renovated to support the space constraints of the school, at least the believed to be space constraints of the school, as if they analyze how that would benefit over, you know, the full service?
It's information that's important in making a decision, is really what it boils down to. It is not your typical space that you could
Yeah,
come to a
correct.
conclusion.
It's not like a square room with,
Where you could just, you could do this, and this,
Right.
and it'll go, but that is a consideration. The school is looking at that. There's a feasibility study that's being done, that will be done by the school, specifically to assess what that'll cost. Now, thinking about it, if for example, it costs $3 million to reappropriate that room, and it costs $1.5 million to keep the pool, that's a decision we have to make as a town, Justin.
Yeah.
It really comes down to, you know, what people value, what the community values. We're here to provide services as well as take care of the budget. So it's important that we understand what people want and that we look at ways to deliver that.
well, so the pool, the certain who wants the pool will be a vote, obviously, right?
I'm sorry?
There'll be a vote, a town vote to determine who values the necessity of the pool, no? Like, who determines that? How are you guys formulating what size of a sample size are you using to determine what things you're going to pursue in the interest of the greater good of the town?
Your representatives, your vote, the people you put in. We're here to specifically talk for you. So it's the input that people give us, you know, in terms of what they're looking for as to what sways us or what helps us in terms of making our decisions.
I guess
So there's no, well, I'll say this from a technical, logical standpoint, We don't have to have a referendum, for example, to determine that we want to keep the pool or not keep the pool, so to speak. But we do in terms of certain dollars that are spent and how we spend them. So that's where you have your say. That's where the town lets us know, or that's where the town makes a decision, that type of thing there. But it's not as if we put it out to vote as to, do we want the pool or don't we want the pool? We may say, here's how much it's going to cost, here's how much, we may do something along those lines, but that's
Well,
not.
like even like for me, like I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial analyst. I don't pretend to be, I don't want to be, doesn't interest me. But I do care about the bottom line of my pocket, right? And like I said, it's always going up. I mean, I think there's about 50 heads in this room right now. Those 50 heads in the two gentlemen that have asked questions before are the only ones that are going to have a say leading up to the cluster. It's usually the town meeting when there actually is voting, because then when other people have to make the time to come in, or try to make the time to come in whether we have a quorum or not, at that point, it's too late, right? This was like the time to at least pose some of the questions and be informed, but I assume many other people also aren't financial analysts or accountants, right? We just all care about the same thing. What's coming out of our wallet, like, right? Like, I feel like almost it's coming to a point, like 10 years from now, like, I might as well just direct deposit my pay into the town's budget, and you can just give me some money for living, right? Like, it's going up every year.
As is, just keep in mind, as is everything. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, I understand.
Think about what the town spends, the gas that we spend on our vehicles, the cost of the vehicles. Think about how much a car cost before and how much it's costing now. The apparatus that we buy for our fire department, we have services that we're providing. Those are going up.
Well, even like not the like.
I'm gonna cut this off.
Well, do you know what was it? Even I just one other question I had, and I actually forgot. We mentioned the fire department. So I was working as sports for 15 years. I left there. One thing that used to irk me is I don't know the gentleman that works for the fire department, I think it was volunteer, that drives with the town fire department the plates on the vehicle to and from work with a trailer hitch on the back of it as well, right? And the tow mirrors for like a tow 9 RV, like things like that. Like who is scrutinizing this vehicles and things like that are used for predominantly personal benefit? That we're buying that new vehicle or buying that new truck once it fully depreciates for use to be personal use. Like, I'm sure, like, I know you guys scrutinize everything, but going back to the end of the day, like, at some point, I would hope to see that we have either no increase or, like, a deduction in the tax rate, right? And it doesn't seem like it's ever going to be that way, because we're always spending things like the schools go up exponentially every year. I don't want the kids to be educated to do, right? But I don't think that it should be like tens of millions of dollars of increases every damn year, right? And so either we're gonna like do something to curtail that, or maybe just not buy anything for a few years to give us a freaking break, or find a way to actually increase the town's revenue streams, perhaps other than the grant list, since that's clearly not working, right? So like, when is that gonna happen?
That's where our effort is going. That's from my perspective, that's
I
where our effort is.
appreciate that's where the effort's going. I know it's been inspired some people, in, but in 12 years, that's the same thing I've heard every year. That's where the effort's going. It has not changed. I mean, it's like 3.9 one year, 3.6 the next, 2.7 for the coming year. Where does that stop? Right? Where does that stop?
Thank you for your comment.
Appreciate it.
I do want to just say, Sharon, did you have a question?
I have a question.
You didn't come up.
Or an observation and a question. So Sharon Ducat, 94 Center Road. And I just have an observation I'd never really noticed before, that to educate children in Woodbridge, and I love our education system, so I'm not wanting to diminish that, but to educate them from kindergarten to 8th grade costs $17 million. To educate them shared with 3 towns for 4 years costs $18 million. So, oh, that's right. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. Clarification. And I also think that, unlike the gentleman who just spoke, that we get a lot of services and we get a lot of good education. And for us to have the wish or the delusion that we're not going to have to keep paying more to them as everything is going up just isn't realistic. And I think it puts undue pressure on the budget. And we moved to Woodbridge because we have the education we do, and we have the good roads we have, and we have great public works. So, you know, I just think that's a reality that is part of the equation we all should appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes?
Yes. I have a suggestion regarding to the pool issue. Since the pool has been closed for almost 2 years now, and it seems to work just fine with people using the JCC, why wouldn't the town just keep that way and consider that space to the Beach Road School, since there had been some searching for that?
That's one of the options on the table.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I'd like to apologize for being late, but I had a meeting. When I saw this first page, right? I'm not an expert in finances, but if I look at this, my immediate response was, we need to diversify our portfolio, because 89% of this tax, this town revenue is relying on the property taxes.
Thank you.
So I'd like to know, when are we going to start to explore the other options of revenue?
I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a stab at that. There have been efforts in this town to diversify the grand list for at least a decade, probably more. It's been very difficult to achieve consensus in this town on these issues. But believe me when I tell you that the efforts continue.
I'm not talking about the grant list being diversified.
Well,
What I'm talking about is the investment income, the other revenues, the other financing resources.
Well, I'll let Tony answer.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how can't we explore that?
Well, so one thing I can tell you is that we're somewhat limited by the state of Connecticut as to what we can collect. And the system is set up so that property taxes, and maybe heard this in other towns as well, property taxes are the main source of revenue for a lot of towns. And so it's difficult to diversify. You can't, there's no local income tax, there's no local, can't piggyback on other taxes. So unfortunately, the current setup we have has really is focused on property taxes. We do try to increase our fees when it's appropriate. We also don't get a lot of state grant revenue because of the Woodbridge just doesn't get a lot of state grants. Some bigger towns and cities maybe get half their education budget from the state, but we don't.
Why?
For socioeconomic reasons.
Can you clarify that for me, please?
The state uses formulas based on per capita income, wealth, and other factors to determine how to allocate state funds for a variety of government programs.
Mm-hmm.
So we just don't get a lot. Most of it, which is education related, so all education cost sharing, we don't get very much.
Thank you.
Well, just for the record, I'm not satisfied, I'm not done, but I would take your thank you as I'm done talking, so.
Do you have another specific question?
Yes, I think this
I'm happy to
is
discuss it if you want to discuss it in more detail.
It's up to you.
I can do that?
Yeah, if you want to stop.
Yeah.
Stop by and schedule, come in anytime, and we can certainly discuss it in more detail. I'm happy to.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah, because I do
Particularly if
think,
you have some suggestions.
yeah, I do think it's a great town, and I do see the issues with the grant list, and this has been going on for years. So meanwhile, the town has to make some money. So it's like, we have a lot of clever people here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Sir?
Patrick Berlin, 11 Ledge Road. I saw that 2.5% of the budget revenue is coming from department charges, and that includes rental fees. I was wondering if there were any plans on expanding rental fees to add to that slice of the pie, just so that we can diversify the budget more than the 89% coming from property taxes.
So for our rental fees, one of our main renters, which is the trial center, is actually no longer renting space in this building, that's about $60,000. So that's actually going to be reduced, unfortunately. But we're always on the lookout for other sources of revenue, or other revenue streams, and trying to match some of the expenditures with the revenue, with another revenue source. It's sort of somewhat of a philosophical question as well, as what percentage of a function should be covered in fees versus what should be in the general budget. And people have different views. Some places charge all their garbage at a fee basis, some don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn? We don't need a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Wait, excuse me, yes?
You have a question.
You're right. We don't need.
My name is Patrick Madden, I live on Newton Road, 258 Newton Road. I've watched for years this reserve for uncollected taxes line, which is another thing that doesn't seem to move very much. Is that some sort of a calculation, or is there actually a list of properties that don't pay their taxes?
So we have a historically stable tax collection rate here. It's generally 99.5%. So if you look at this history, it never really varies from that. So the reserve for uncollected taxes is about 0.5% that we use, and that's generally pretty consistent.
How many buildings are we talking about?
I'm not sure how many accounts that is, Pat.
I'm sorry?
Roughly how many accounts are generally delinquent? Or,
What percentage?
no, what
How many
no,
properties are delinquent on
How
their
many
taxes?
properties generally?
Do we stay on that list?
Yeah.
Well, they still,
We probably have 2 that are unbuildable lots that we haven't been able to work on.
No, it means properties that are generally don't pay on time.
I'm sorry, tell me.
Properties
Properties that don't pay on
Oh, don't
time.
pay on time?
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably the 175,000 we collect in interest.
But how many actual buildings?
Over 3,200, we probably have 40 properties. Of that 40, 20 of them are either theater lots or unbuildable properties. The other 20 are just people who haven't paid us yet. For serious delinquencies, we have gone to foreclosures. And I have 3 properties right now in foreclosure. I believe there's some that some banks have, which don't affect us because the banks do pay us.
yeah.
And I usually set a balance of about $10,000 when someone owes $10,000. They get a strong letter from our town attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
I'll just add that, I know, because I just learned coming in, that I don't know, over 160 pounds, we're top 10 in terms of tax collection.
Yeah, we've been in the top 10 of the past years.
Thank you. Good job.
I second that.
The second question I have is, there's a new item called fund balance appropriation for $800,000 it appears. What is that?
So we have a fund balance, which is essentially our rainy day fund or a savings account, if you will. We have a fund balance. And each year, the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance recommend to the budget how much of that fund balance will be used to offset taxes. So that's that figure. $800,000 is used from our fund balance to offset taxes, so we don't have to collect that amount in taxes. We use money from our rainy day fund.
So that's revenue essentially for the...
It's surplus from previous years that we've collected. that we then use to offset taxes.
How much is the rainy day fund?
How much in dollars?
Yeah.
But it's about $8 million.
It's usually measured in terms of our percentage, in terms of percent of budget.
Right, but it's measured by your percent of your budget, and ours is about 15% of our budget, which is pretty normal for a town.
I can't comment on whether I consider that excessive or not, but it's a lot of money.
Thank you. All right, hearing no other comments and seeing no other hands, and yet so close. Go ahead.
I know, I wish more people had questions. I don't have questions.
Question.
I do.
Okay, and ask
About the
the
rainy fund, that's for emergencies, right?
Correct.
The floods that happen between Litchfield Turnpike and the mountain, the rock, does that cover that? And what is the town responsibility for the damage caused by the floods?
What floods are you referring to?
The West River.
The West River floods?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's like on January 11th, there was a huge amount of water coming down, watersheds, and I just don't understand why,
That's the state issue, that's.
but aren't you representing us to the state?
Oh, very much, yes.
So how can we help you represent us?
Your legislature?
No, I'm just a taxpayer.
No, I'm saying your legislature,
Oh.
by contacting your legislator, there's no way we can mitigate what needs to happen there in order for it to happen. In reality, we've had a number of engineering studies, and even the engineers have challenges in trying to come up with a solution in order to mitigate the flooding that's there.
But how about the damage to the properties?
That is usually what the folks have flood insurance for, and that is a flood area, so they have to, in most cases, they have to carry flood insurance in order to live there.
And over the decades, there have been cooperative projects between the town and the state legislature, for instance, the bridge on the corner.
Yeah, the one that got rebuilt, yeah.
A number of years ago. But generally, that's how it will come out. That's the state regulates that much more than we do. And private property insurance is involved in damage.
And we have indeed gone to our legislators, they try to be helpful. We've gone to engineers, there's Army Corps of Engineering has been there, it's been a lot done. But there are houses in an area that will flood if there's heavy rains.
And has anybody looked beyond, above where the water's coming from?
Yes,
And who do we contact to talk about that?
that is the state, that's exactly what.
Oh, it's all the state.
It's exactly, they talk to the Regional Water Authority, they talk to all the stakeholders associated with the problem they speak with. But, we've got volumes of work that's been.
All right, so coming back just to the rainy day fund, what is classified as a rainy day for a town?
Initiative that we can pay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What qualifies as a rainy?
What qualifies for the rainy day fund in the town of Woodbridge? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's for emergency expenditures.
Like?
For instance, we have 90% of our revenues come from one source, we indicated that. So we have to have an emergency fund so that if something happens to that, if you're not diversified in revenue, you're relying on one revenue source. It's for a downturn in the economy, it's for one-time purchases, it's for anything that the board is deemed appropriate.
I will just add to that, for purposes of credit rating and financial stability, it's not our first choice to go to
Okay.
the rainy day fund.
And it's
I'm
not,
sure you understand.
yeah, so it's not for like a natural disaster.
It could be.
It could be.
For example, we lost tons of trees and we needed to clear them all out. Yes, that's.
But it wouldn't be the first thing we would try and get done. We would first try and get the money elsewhere before we went into our own rainy day fund, so to speak. It's always the last resort.
Yeah. When was the last time the town ran into that fund?
Well, we use it each year for offsetting taxes, and we used it to buy open space one year. We use it for,
Okay, and when you say to offset taxes, what do you mean?
means that if we don't have that in our budget, we have to raise additional taxes.
Okay.
Wait. I don't understand. And by the way, I'd rather ask you the questions here, because in my experience, there are people who don't ask the questions because they're shy or afraid, and I'd like to be able to hear the answers and share with other people. But would you just try to explain one more time? I didn't understand that to offset the tax. What does that mean?
So if we didn't have an allocation from fund balance in our budget to revenue, we'd have to increase our taxes by that amount to balance the budget.
So why are the taxes increasing then?
Well, for a variety of reasons. But it would increase even more if we didn't have $800,000 in revenue.
And we still have to have the rainy day fund.
Got
It
it.
still has to be protected. Okay?
I get it now. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Actually, my last comment isn't really a question. It's really a comment about the dichotomy that we deal with as a community and what you're all faced when you're dealing with these budgets and what you're doing. You know, and I'll use the word, we live in a very privileged community, and I know that's a terrible word to use in today's world, that we are a privileged community. But unfortunately, we've become accustomed to a certain standard of living here in Woodbridge that affords us great school systems and great amenities and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, kind of that privileged way of living also doesn't enable a lot of people who want to live in Woodbridge to live here. And so I guess that we'll reach a point in time, if we really want to welcome more people into the town, we may actually have to look at some things a little differently in terms of our expectations. And I'm not saying lower our standards, but we may have to figure out how to do things a little bit differently in that way. And then my last comment is, I feel really bad for everything we try to do, and I hear everyone pounding away the grand list. There's a reality in the grand list. There's a certain small percentage of our town that is available to grow the grand list. And most people don't realize the grand list it's a small amount. Okay, in the former Wheeler's building, there's no one in there operating. And yes, if someone was in there and whatever the furniture and fixtures are in there, we would collect tax on that. But the lion's share of the tax on that property is already there on that property that exists. So the only way you really get past that part of growing the grand list, and you probably remember a number of years ago, there was a presentation that was made through TP&Z that actually showed, and many people saw it as a very radical change, okay, of adding additional buildings to grow the grand list. And if that's really what we want to do, okay, that's kind of what needs to happen if that is our goal. Otherwise, we need to just accept that most of the taxes that come from our residential. So, I'm not saying it's a question, I'm making it as a comment, because I don't think most people in our town realize kind of the reality of what we're really dealing with. I mean, yes, every so many years when people campaign, both parties, we talk about growing the grand list, the opportunity's fairly limited in that way. And yes, some of the things that I know Susan, your committee was working on with the 23rd is to try to make those businesses more vibrant and have less vacancy and that type of thing. But even that is fairly limited. There would have to be more buildings and that type of thing in order to create that. And unfortunately, to some degree, I'm sure some people who want to hear this, you may have to consider some properties that you wouldn't have normally considered, but we're a town that we like to protect open space. So that's, I'm not pushing one or the other, I'm just pointing out kind of the realities of what we deal with. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And your effort.
Okay, I'm looking around the room, no one is standing up, and yet there's a question. Yes, sir.
I'm Tom Buford, I live on Wedgewood Drive. And I'm looking at page 40 here, and I see, this is waste management on this page. And I see this line item 53201, waste disposal tipping fees. And there's big increase there. And I'm kind of aware that some things have changed, and the trash plant in Hartford doesn't take trash anymore, it's shut down. Are there any plans to keep that from skyrocketing in our town? I haven't heard a word about it tonight, so I thought
I can comment on that. So, we're part of a regional solid waste committee that involves several other towns. We haul our waste to Bridgeport, so we don't use the Hartford facility. And so our contract expires coming up pretty soon with the Bridgeport facility, so we're investigating a number of alternatives to help with this issue. But the closure of the Hartford plant is just put pressure on all the other operators. That's why it's going up by so much. We get the volume because we're in the same group with Bridgeport and Stratford and Milford and a lot of big towns. So that helps us by being able to use that to our advantage. So we don't have any easy answers at this point. There is a lot of research going on.
And it goes from what Tony mentioned here, also to something as simple as composting. Our tipping fees, our waste is priced by pounds, by weight. So the less weight you have, the less you pay. So folks don't understand from a composting standpoint, that's a heavy material. If folks compost at home, then that's less material that ends up in our landfills. And it doesn't matter whether you've got your own service of picking up your garbage or whether you're going to the transfer station on a regular time. So my point just being that we're looking at whatever creative types of solutions there might be out there. And there's a lot of folks putting a lot of time to this so that we can latch onto some different ideas and come up with whatever will help, because it is a big line item, and it's something that we might be able to do something about. But something as simple as composting will help.
I think I've read that some waste from Connecticut might already be going to other states to be buried, like Pennsylvania and even Ohio. Boy, that doesn't sound cheap to me, and I hope we don't get to that point where our garbage has to go to those other states. With the cost of diesel fuel today and trucks and all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking, I don't see anybody. Okay, I think we're done. This preliminary budget hearing is concluded. I want to remind everybody that the annual town meeting, not only is it at the Amity High School, but it's in the cafeteria, not the auditorium. Okay, at 7:30 on May 20th. Hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for your participation.